The Dallas Cowboys' rich legacy at the tight end position stems back to the 60s during the days of Patterson Norman, who was one of the first African-American tight ends in NFL history and the first African-American tight end in Dallas Cowboys history. In the 60s, Landry's philosophy was to use the tight end in blocking packages. Rarely did he ever use them in passing situations until the turn of the 70s when they acquired the legend himself, Mike Ditka. On January 28, 1969, Mike Ditka was traded from the Eagles to the Dallas Cowboys in exchange for wide receiver Dave McDaniels. In his first season with the Cowboys, although he wasn't a starter and was past his prime, he caught 17 receptions for 268 yards and 3 touchdowns. The next season in 1970, Ditka's championship attitude brought a different kind of mentality to the offense that they desperately needed. The Dallas Cowboys reached their first Super Bowl, losing 13-16 against the Baltimore Colts. In 1971, he set the franchise record for tight ends with 30 receptions in a season. He had 360 receiving yards and a touchdown. He scored a touchdown on Super Bowl VI when the Cowboys beat the Dolphins 24-3. Mike Ditka played one more season with the Cowboys and retired in '73 as the all-time receptions leader as a tight end in NFL history. Although he wasn't the highest ranked player on their draft board, Doug Cosby was selected by the Dallas Cowboys in 1979. In 1981, Cosby made his presence felt immediately, catching 5 touchdowns, which was tied for 8th in the league among tight ends. The next season in '82, Cosby led all NFC tight ends with 30 receptions. He caught 441 yards and 4 touchdowns. Cosby was the 7th tight end in receiving yards and yards per game. He was 5th in receptions among tight ends and the 4th leading tight end in touchdowns. The next season in '83, Cosby was even better and solidified himself as a rising star at the tight end position. He broke the tight end franchise record for receptions, was 3rd on the team in yards, and had 6 touchdowns. In the NFC, Cosby was 4th in receiving yards, 3rd in receptions, and 4th in touchdowns among tight ends. He made his first Pro Bowl that season. In 1984, he broke his own team record for receptions by tight end with 60 catches. He was 2nd on the team with 789 yards and 4 touchdowns. Among tight ends in the NFC, Cosby was 1st in yards and 2nd in receptions. He was 3rd in the entire league in yards among tight ends. By the time 1985 came around, Doug Cosby was considered an all-time great tight end in franchise history. He also established the franchise record for receiving yards in a season by a tight end and had 6 touchdowns. He was named to the All-Pro team, and among tight ends in the NFC, he was 2nd in catches, 2nd in yards, and 1st in touchdowns.
He gets by 2 men. He's going for Cosby deep. Cosby has a touchdown, Dallas.
To put his career into perspective, he was one of the first true great passing tight ends in franchise history.
Cosby comes up man-to-man and has the whole corner here to work on the linebacker who's right on him. Now watch right down here. Noga has Cosby man-to-man all the way. That's a mismatch, but it was pretty good coverage by Noga.
He caught over 60 passes in a season twice during his career, set team records for a tight end with catches and yards per season and career. His records remained unbroken until Jay Novacek and Jason Witten came along. Doug Cosby is one of the most unsung heroes of the 80s. Before Jason Witten, there was Billy Joe Dupree, a complete tight end who perfected the science of blocking and pass catching.
But I'm just telling you, Billy Joe Dupree, if he'd played in a different era, he could have been Tony Gonzalez.
In '74 and in '76, he was top 3 in almost all team receiving statistics. The next season, Dupree was such a phenomenal player that Landry gave him a break in the receiving game and used him as a main run supporter for Dorsett, Newhouse, and Preston Pearson. That season, Dupree made the Pro Bowl by just blocking. His 41 touchdowns for a tight end lasted for decades until Witten broke it in 2012. Billy Joe Dupree was durable and never missed a game in his 11 seasons in the league, and was one of the most important pieces of those 70s teams. In 1990, the Dallas Cowboys signed Jay Novacek as a Plan B free agent. One of the most important signings in the history of the Dallas Cowboys, the most pure pass-catching tight end since Doug Cosby, a smooth route runner who can beat you over the top or had the skill to move the chains, a true champion and a Cowboy legend who doesn't get enough credit.
And again, if you don't clamp on Jay Novacek and play him man-to-man and play him tight and bump in, he can kill you. You can't let him He can run through and find open holes in any zone.
From 1990 to 1995, Novacek was a top 2 tight end in the league. 1990, Novacek was first in receptions and second in receiving yards among tight ends. In 1991, he was second in the league in receptions and second in receiving yards among tight ends. By 1992, he led the league in receptions, was second in touchdowns, and second in the league in yards among tight ends. And in 1995, he was fifth in yards and tied for fourth in touchdowns among tight ends. We can talk about the triplets, the Deion Sanders, the Charles Hellys, and the Darren Woodsons of the world. But keep in mind, the Dallas Cowboys has never won a Super Bowl without the legendary Jay Novacek on the sidelines.
He throws inside the 5, touchdown to Novacek.
When he retired, it took Dallas years to fill that void. When we asked the question, who was that one guy without any weaknesses? That one player who was elite in every category.
Broken tackle, walks on in, touchdown, Jason Witten.
The total package. Jason Witten was that one guy who was consistently dominant for over a decade.
Roll out till you can't go no more. 60 minutes. Cowboys on 3. 1, 2, 3. Cowboy.
A lot of young Cowboy fans joke about how Witten couldn't get any separation, but some of those young fans never seen how dominant a prime Witten truly was. That's fine, that's what I'm here for. Let me help you. In 2004, Witten went on a dominant tear for 4 weeks straight, averaging over 100 yards per game. He caught 90% of his passes and averaged 15 yards per reception. His 15 yards per catch was top 5 per average for all tight ends in that stretch. In 07, he was the most dangerous and complete tight end in the league outside of Tony Gonzalez. Witten had 5 games where he caught 90 or more yards, 4 games where he had 8 or more catches. In week 4 versus Detroit, Witten was unstoppable, catching 15 passes for 138 yards and a touchdown. It was one of the first games where I saw a tight end carry a team to victory. From 08 to 2012, he had 900 or more yards in each season, 19 total touchdowns, and over 458 catches. He had 41 games in his career averaging at least 80 or more yards, 34 games with at least 8 or more catches. Witten once caught 18 catches in a game. In franchise history, he is the fastest tight end to make 600 receptions, has most career receptions, most career receiving yards, most games played, and most consecutive games started than any Cowboy in history. The wide option was a beauty to watch. Witten ran routes with such conviction. He was so crafty and deceptive in his route running, creative and yet simple. He's the Go Cowboy tight end and one of the greatest players in NFL history.
To all the Dallas Cowboys fans around the world, I hope that along the way, I made you proud to be a Dallas Cowboys fan.
If you agree with this list or don't agree, let me know. Make sure to like and subscribe for more Dallas Cowboys content. And as always, thanks for watching.